From Gaza to Congo, Yemen to the Philippines, war rages under U.S. imperialism's grip. These aren't isolated conflicts. They are part of a system that uses desperate tactics of militarism to maintain plunder, occupation, and exploitation of people and resources by the U.S.
A global movement is rising with workers, youth, women, artists, and families all uniting against US-led war in all forms. We fight against every link in the chain, from military bases to war corporations, from war games to military alliances.
Through globally coordinated actions and campaigns, we make it clear the war machine is not invincible, and it is not welcome in our homelands.
We are fighting not just for the end of the bombings and conflict, but for a just peace built through sovereignty, solidarity, and self-determination. Resist US-led War is a network of organizations and individuals building a global movement that links together our local, national, and regional struggles and is united in resistance.
When organizations and individuals join the Resist US-led War movement, they can take action, educate, and mobilize together to strengthen the people power needed to overturn the system that fuels war and build a just peace. Sign the manifesto, join Resist US-led War movement. Yes, please share the video, please promote this network. We think that by coming together to coordinate globally, we really can deal a stronger blow to the war machine, whether we're confronting the bases, the exercises, the war companies, or the politicians waging these genocides against the people. When we resist US-led war and build just peace together, we can be a powerful force for peace. So welcome everyone. We're glad you're here. All right. Today for our global network meeting, we're really excited to cover some important campaigns. We know the world can be incredibly overwhelming, but for those of us, all of us here who are fighting for peace, we know there is no shortage of campaigns, of the need for rallying the people for the cause of peace. So we'll cover our global campaigns through the anti-militarism agenda, and you'll get the chance to hear updates from members about campaigns that are happening for justice in Palestine, against colonial control of former and current colonies of the US in the Philippines, Guam, Puerto Rico, Hawai'i, and you also get the chance to hear about people's fight back against US war, aggression, naval strikes against the people of Venezuela. And you'll also get to hear about a global campaign targeting US military bases. Next, we'll cover our campaign that targets the War Profiteers and all the companies that are making money off of the business of war. We're getting ready to relaunch the campaign, and so you'll get the chance to hear some updates and learn how to plug in. And then finally, there are some new resources. And so throughout the meeting, we really invite you to give updates about how your work connects to these global campaigns in the chat, or if you have something to share, let us know. Yeah, we'll get started. I'll pass it on to another member of our secretariat, Cody. And I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Carly with the Resist US-led War Global Secretariat, and happy to be here with you all. Go ahead, Cody.
Right on. Thank you so much, Carly. And hello, everyone. Like Carly said, my name is Cody. I am calling you all in from past midnight here in Barcelona, Spain, or as many people here would say, the independent aspiring nation of Catalonia. And while I'm definitely starting to get kind of drowsy, I'm really feeling my second wind after seeing the video that multiple of our members made that we just saw, talking about why this network is so important right now. So another big shout out, not just to our members, but the membership and network committee of Resist for working really, really hard on that video. Please get your friends and comrades to join Resist US-led War movement. And actually, before we even start, here in front of us is the newest members who have joined Resist. So please give a big shout out, emojis, chat, however you want to do it, to our newest members of Resist US-led War, the Osan Migrant Center from Korea, Gegar, it went away. So excited, so excited. Gegar, the Gerakan Gabungan Anti-Imperialists from Malaysia, Prutahi Guahan from Guam, the Diaspora Palante Collective from Puerto Rico, Tiovainen Anti-Militaristic from Finland, and Veterans for Peace San Francisco Bay Area from the US. So everyone give a big shout out. We also have individuals, many individuals who've recently joined from a variety of different orgs, such as Science for the People in the US, the Lake and Heath Alliance for Peace in the UK, the Whatcom Coalition for Palestine, and War Profiteers out of Whatcom from US, the Rethink Media from the US, Rocky Mountain Radical Justice Group from the US, and War Resisters League from the Portland chapter, my former city I used to live in, from the US. Okay, again, it's not just organizations that can join Resist. Anyone can join, even as an individual. So if you know anyone, if you are working with a close comrade, send them the video that we just showed at the beginning of this meeting and encourage them to be on our next all members meeting as some of the newer members that we're listing there. We have so much work to do to fight back against this brutal war machine that the US, it seems like every single meeting that we have, there's something else to talk about. Some new horrific crime that the US has committed, some new kind of justification that they're trying to whip up in order to start World War III. But of course, for so many people around the world, for the workers, peasants, indigenous people, all suffering people around the world, the migrants, every single day almost seems like it could be World War III. And we have to remember that and resist, that this is not a situation where wars are just being prepared for. It's a situation where there's always war being unleashed on the people until we're able to fight back and uproot the war machine. And it's in that framing that we're going to talk about our first item of the agenda here, which is some of the updates of our anti-militarism agenda campaign. For those of you who have been with us for a while and have heard about the anti-militarism agenda, we're actually going to have some new elements to share about it today. For those of you who are brand new, to give a brief overview, the anti-militarism agenda is sort of our overarching campaign platform for the Resist US-led war movement. It is a collection of many different campaign calls to action that our members and our close partners around the world have been taking up for years. It was a process to build this campaign platform and bringing together so many different organizations, learning from them, creating spaces where we were sharing the kinds of actions we were doing, and also the analysis about what the problems we were facing, but also the solutions that we were finding. That is what's collected here. What you're seeing on the screen is the anti-militarism agenda itself in booklet form. You can find it on our website, and it is a group of different calls to action that come from the ground, from the grassroots movements. And they carry the analysis and talking points that are important to include whenever we are making a new piece of propaganda, teaching a new kind of education, political education through our organizations, and most importantly, taking action. What are the targets we can use? This is really grounded not just in the work that our members are doing, which is all of you. It's grounded in the very urgent needs of the current period right now about what it is that we're fighting against. And the US-led war machine is rampaging all out all over the world. There's a so-called ceasefire that has been in Palestine, in Gaza, that has been broken every single day by the Zionist occupation. Every single day since the ceasefire agreement was signed, Palestinians have been killed. Palestinians are continuing to be starved. And southern Lebanon is continued to be bombed, while other countries around the region are being threatened to be bombed by the US-backed Zionist occupation entity as well. And we mentioned at the beginning here what's happening, the threats against Venezuela. The USS Gerald Ford, the US's largest aircraft carrier, was just sent just a few hours ago. It arrived in the Caribbean with a whole Marine strike force. This happened as Trump is boldly claiming that he might start airstrikes against Venezuela soon too. We're seeing all this talk about potential long-range missiles being sent by the US and NATO powers into Ukraine in order to escalate the war, the Ukraine war, which in many ways still is existing as a proxy war where NATO is doing whatever it can in order to keep Russia and Ukraine locked into an endless war so they can weaken Russia as a rival. And more people are dying in Ukraine, Russians and Ukrainians, for over 3 years now. And we're seeing a huge amount of new US and allied military bases built all across, especially the Pacific, in the Philippines, in Japan, in Australia, in Korea, but really all over the world. This is the context that we are waging the different campaigns that make up the anti-militarism agenda. But the context that also we're fitting this in is the fight back against the military bases that are happening wherever they exist, the pushback, against the occupation, whether it's the occupation of Palestine or the many other military de facto occupations that exist across the world, or it's the people who are resisting counterinsurgency campaigns, especially the people living in the countryside, in the rural areas of the world, where they're actually defending their land against states that are trying to grab them using US provided weapons. The fight back against sanctions, all of this is encapsulated in the anti-militarism agenda. So to not go more and more into things that you can learn just by reading the agenda, I do actually want to maybe jump into a new video that we have that explains the anti-militarism agenda a bit. And, I described the why we have the anti-militarism agenda. But let's go into a video that's going to explain what it is and how it works.
From Palestine to the Philippines, from the Congo to Korea, the U.S.'s militarism and wars of aggression are felt by everyone. But anywhere there is U.S. militarism, there is resistance. The Resist U.S.-led War movement is a global network united to, 1, resist U.S.-led war, and 2, to build just peace. In response to the current conditions of the world and the United States' role in provoking wars of aggression, the Resist U.S.-led War movement is relaunching our anti-militarism agenda. This agenda unites anti-war, anti-imperialist, and pro-peace forces around the world to identify the people's priorities for fighting and winning a just and lasting peace. The war machine exists to keep the ruling class in power, and its biggest threat is the people. Its biggest threat is us. Together, we fight for just and lasting peace.
That's right. So a new tool we have for the anti-militarism agenda that's on our website is actually just that. It is toolkits. This is a thing that we said we were going to develop when we rolled out the new anti-militarism agenda a few months ago. And so now what we have on our website is you can find different toolkits that actually speak to the different calls to action within the agenda. These are ones that have been created either by Resist US-led War members or by organizations we work closely with, and we're always growing them. So if you can look at the website here, you can see, actually go right back here, where we can find the AMA toolkits. So under anti-militarism agenda, under campaigns, go to AMA toolkits. And if you scroll a little bit down, you can see some of the ones that have already been made. The Defend Venezuela Sovereignty and Resist US-led War toolkit that was made just around a month ago from our Resist US military bases campaign that we'll hear about. Keep scrolling down a little bit. You'll see part of our Weapons Watch series that's there. I won't go too much into this to save time so that we can hear directly from the campaigns themselves. But I just want to really point out that this is an added practical element that we have to the anti-militarism agenda. If you have toolkits for your campaigns, we would love to put them up here, especially if they are answering directly to the calls that are already in the anti-militarism agenda. So check these out, download them, look through them, see if you can use them in order to plan a new piece of education or to add a bit more better understanding to the issue to when you're planning your mobilization. And if you, again, have items that we can put up here for our toolkits, please get in touch with us so we can do that. With that, there's been many a lot more activity we've done with the specific campaigns of the anti-militarism agenda. So to start talking about that, I am passing it off to someone. Carly.
Yes, thank you. There are several organizations who are part of Resist or are friends of Resist who are taking up a new campaign. If you can go to the next slide, it is called End Colonial Control, Independence Now. And there are several organizations coming together to introduce this campaign. It was initiated by our members in JUPI, the Juventud Unida por la Independencia. And we reached out to some of the groups that are on this call right now, like Madres contra la Guerra, that you'll hear from in a moment, Protegi Guahan, Bayan Philippines, Diaspora Bailante Collective, Opa Epono Peace Project, and others who are coming together to expose the start of the colonial legacy of the US, cementing its military control over independent lands, independent nations, and sovereign peoples who are already fighting against colonization, either from the US or Spain, and had this legacy start to be cemented through the Treaty of Paris in 1898. And now our campaigns are coming together in order to expose how today this past is still affecting the daily lives of the people of Puerto Rico, Cuba, the Philippines, Guam, and Hawaii, many of whom were colonized under this Treaty of Paris, whose lands were either sold, purchased, or directly militarily dominated under these agreements. And of course, today, there's still effects on the forms of military bases, the forms of military experiments and exercises, on the presence of troops occupying people's daily lives on all of these lands of different nations. And so the campaign will consist of education. It will include materials and resources to teach our communities and do mass organizing and mobilizing on these current issues of militarism, as well as provide resources to come together and take the streets and mobilize on the anniversary of the Treaty of Paris passing, which is December 10th. This also coincides with International Human Rights Day. And so this campaign will put out a call to resist US-led war members, as well as beyond, in these countries and also around the world, to stand up against colonial control, to stand up against US militarism and military occupation, and to say these countries are fighting for their independence now. And so for us, it's a really key opportunity to show how the fight for independence, the fight for sovereignty, is part and parcel to the fight to end war. And to end peace. So our movements then have to stand with these current struggles for independence. And there's so many critical fights that activists in these countries are already waging. And there's also a legacy of victories where these countries have been able to overthrow US military presence and kick out the colonizers. So whether that's, the victory of the Cuban Revolution, whether that is the victory of the Puerto Rican people to kick out the military from Vieques, or it's the victories of the Hawaiian movement to shut down bombing ranges on their islands, the victory of the Filipino people to kick out the military in the 80s from Subic and Clark military bases. These examples and victories are still part of the fight today. And with that legacy, we want to apply this history and say that people aren't going to accept military occupation in their homelands. And by bringing together these particular struggles in the Philippines, in Puerto Rico, in Guam, in Hawaii, and in Cuba, these nations that are fighting for national liberation can expose this legacy and use it as a tool in the fight today to bring about just and lasting peace. And so we invite everyone to be a part of this campaign. We're going to have a launch event on November 8th. I know that it is 5 p.m. Pacific, but there's other time zones here. 2 p.m. in Honolulu, 8 p.m. in San Juan and Havana, 8 a.m. on November 9th in Manila, 10 a.m. in Guam. And we invite folks to sign on to the campaign, to join the event, and also to prepare your organizations for mobilizations on December 10th, where our peace movement can really stand firmly with the liberation movements that are fighting to end US imperialism and bring about a just and lasting peace. And we were going to have Auntie Laulani, I don't know if you're on the call. I think not right now, who's going to speak more to the campaign, but now you can come to the launch event and hear from her, as well as the other activists. And you'll still get to hear from Sonia, who's part of the campaign on this call as well. So yeah, please let us know if there's any questions, and please register for the event on November 8th. There's also a campaign page on our website if you would like to learn more, and we'll be uploading resources. So if anyone would like to be part of this campaign and would like to help with the propaganda production, help with hosting the events, help with preparing the mobilization toolkits, please reach out to our secretariat and we can connect you to the campaign effort. So yeah, and colonial control, independencia, yeah, that's what we're standing with, these calls to resist US military occupation, imperialism, and the legacy of the Treaty of Paris. Yes, so we hope to see you all in the course of this campaign. Yes, and then I will pass it along. I'll pass it along to another update about another campaign folks can get involved with. Back to Cody.
Great. So next, we want to mention that Resist is an endorser of the Right to Resist International People's Tribunal for Palestine. This tribunal, this People's Tribunal, is going to be happening here in Barcelona in just under a month from now, November 2023. And when we say International People's Tribunal, we're not talking about an actual court. We're not talking about a strictly legal process. We're talking about a political act. We're talking about gathering people together, witnesses, survivors of the genocide, the attempted genocide against Palestine, who are speaking out to expose the crimes of not just the Zionist occupation, but the US government that has funded it and aided it every single step of the way. It's going to bring together jurors, prosecutors that will take all of this testimony from direct witnesses from Gaza and the West Bank, and also hear from experts in the fields of war and conflict, of ecocide, which is a primary topic that the tribunal is focused on, ecocide and forced starvation of the Zionist entity against the Palestinian people. And we'll take all of this information and actually put it into proceedings that will push a verdict, the people's verdict. And these proceedings will then be taken after the 2 days of giving this information. They'll be produced into a form that can actually be taken to governments, to international institutions. They can be submitted to the UN and its various bodies as added evidence to expose directly the crimes that the US and Zionists have done in their 2 years ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people. Focus is on ecocide and forced starvation, because while there's been a lot in the news about the deliberate starvation of the Palestinian people, it's part of a broader weapon of war that the Zionists are using. The Zionists have been destroying everything of the environment of Gaza to deliberately make the environment unlivable, destroying farmland that the people would need to use to produce their own food, creating a toxic wasteland with all of the destruction. They're manufacturing an ecological disaster to force the Palestinian people to either die or leave. It hasn't worked. The people have not left. And despite immense sacrifice, they're showing us what it means to remain steadfast and hold on to their land and fight back no matter what. And that is the other point of focus of this tribunal. And it's the name of it, Right to Resist. This is a tribunal that is going to assert within international law, within the principles of self-determination, and through unwavering international solidarity, that the people of Palestine not only have a right to resist, but the people of the world have a duty to help defend their right to resist and live on their land from the river to the sea one day. That is what this International People's Tribunal is pushing for. That's the movement that this is a part of. I mentioned a bit what's going to happen at this 2-day event in Barcelona, the people that will be there. We hope that you can come if you are so moved to actually attend this momentous occasion in Barcelona in November 22 to 23. But even if you're not able to attend, there are so many ways you can support. And you can go to our website to start to see that. So I think we're going to go to the website now and just show you a bit of what's on there. Here's the website, and it starts, and it was shared in the chat here, internationalsolidarity.org/tribunal. It starts with the background, which I won't go through. I kind of just summarized. If you keep scrolling through the background, you will get to, keep scrolling, this place where you can register to actually attend if you intend. You can endorse the tribunal, as Resist has done, in which you can show your support, announce it to your members like we're doing right now, help give a donation to support the work, especially of bringing a lot of the people here who need to be here, the witnesses, the jurors, the prosecutors, producing the materials to come after this. The donate button is here too. If you endorse, if you scroll down a bit more, you'll get your name on the website. Look at how many organizations have already endorsed the tribunal. It is soon going to be over 80. It'll probably soon surpass even 100. And if your organization endorses, it'll help us show just how much widespread support there is for this initiative. If you want to stay, if you want to stay in the loop with the updates, the email list is a bit below that. And then in order to not take too much time, I'll just mention that if you visit the website, you can also find the statements, press releases, other resources like flyers and brochures that you can download. Read the statements and share them. If you have press contacts, please share the press releases with them so we can get coverage. And you can download these brochures that tell you more, that go more in depth into the tribunal and why we're having it. And I will finally share, if you scroll up just to the education point of it, next Saturday, November 1st, there will be a webinar. We have an educational webinar calendar here, and our third webinar on understanding and confronting the crime of ecocide in Palestine will be had. This is going to be a very significant one because it's actually going to go more into the legal definition of ecocide. And also we will have people who have been survivors of ecocide and been impacted by it from Palestine and some other countries as well, to actually better understand what this is as a weapon of war and why it's so significant to fight back against it. So please, please, please attend this webinar. You can register by going on the website, and we'll also drop the registration link in the chat here for you to visit. So please endorse, support, and if you're able to attend the International People's Tribunal for Palestine at the end of November in Barcelona, and let's keep doing everything we can to end the occupation and fight for a free Palestine from the river to the sea.
Another major site of confrontation by the U.S. with a sovereign people in Venezuela.
Glad to be here with everyone and really excited to hear about the many campaigns that Resist and its members are engaged in, really tackling and fighting back against all of the US-led war forms that it takes. I think something that we've been really paying attention to, not just us, but I think everyone in the last few months specifically, has been this build-up to war of the US against Venezuela and the sovereignty nation of Venezuela. Really, the US showing its bellicose face to the world, really not hiding anything, threatening to do a regime change in Venezuela with all the words, and really just provoking a war on a nation that didn't do anything to the US, just so that it can really take control of its natural resources and try to put its people under the US umbrella of influence and exploitation. So I think it's important to note that these threats and attempts at regime change in Venezuela have not been started in the last 2 months, right? Since the Bolivarian Republic won its revolution in the beginning of the 2000s, later half of the 1990s, 1990s, really the US has tried to covertly and overtly do coup d'etats via the CIA by funding the so-called opposition to the government that really is just proxies of the US within the country, a class that is servile to US imperialism and does not want the good of the Venezuelan people. But I think in the last 2 months, everyone has seen how it has escalated, right? Just in the last 2 months, the US has killed around 37 people with over 9 strikes on boats that were off the coast of Venezuela and now Colombia as well. So really escalating this narrative of fighting the drug trafficking and actually killing and striking boats with not really any evidence. And even if it had evidence, really a interference in the sovereignty of the Venezuelan people and on the lives of these people that really had no evidence of doing any crime or anything like that. And I think it's important to note that this narrative of the narco-trafficking terrorism, really associating that narrative with a narrative that the US has used before during the war on terror, right? Really labeling anyone that is not under the US umbrella or defying the US might, imperialist might, as the enemy, and therefore justifying waging a war against its people. So really a playbook that the US has used, but that Trump is reusing again so that it can wage a war on the Venezuelan people. I think Cody mentioned as well, but just today, the General Ford aircraft carrier, the biggest aircraft carrier of the US, has been deployed to Southcom near the coast of the Caribbean. And really Trump just saying that he might escalate to targeting the land of Venezuela and the Venezuelan people, not only just the boats, and really seeing this huge attempt at regime change and the need for the peoples of the world to really stand with Venezuela and against the US. So I think just wanted to share a little bit of what Resist member orgs and its partners have been up to. We'll talk a little bit about that, but during our anti-basis weeks of action last month, we were able to produce a toolkit with the International League of People's Struggles, the International Women's Alliance, Bayan Philippines, the Asia Pacific Research Network, the Philippine-Venezuela Friendship Association, in which it details a little bit more the timeline of this current aggression, this use of this narco-terrorism narrative to justify the US's aggression, and then also ways in which people can support, ways in which people can find more news, stay up to date, and hear the calls of the people of Venezuela as they come up. Because, the Venezuelan people themselves have been mobilizing, have been enlisting in the militias, and have been protesting this escalation. But it's really important for all of the peoples of the world to show solidarity and hear the calls of U.S. handouts of Venezuela that the Venezuelan people have been propagating. Then we also have a statement that is part of this toolkit that I think folks can share and sign on. And then we also did a media forum during these 2 weeks of action that I'm going to show a video from that we were able to have speakers, members from all over the world, from Latin America to the US to the Asia Pacific, and the ambassador for Venezuela in the Philippines, Richard Lobo, was also there and really did a great job at explaining how this war and attempt to regime change is an attempt to continuously get a hold of the resources of the Venezuelan people and of the Venezuelan nation, particularly the oil that is Venezuela has. So I think I'll just show the video that it talks a little bit about the things that I talked, but it also shows the solidarity of the people all over the world with the Republic of Venezuela.
I directed a lethal kinetic strike on a narco-trafficking vessel affiliated with designated terrorist organizations in the U.S. Southcom area of responsibility.
In the territorial sea of Venezuela, have deployed these military ships President Maduro said around 4,500 troops in those ships, and those warships, just waiting for the decision of the U.S. to start attacking Venezuela. They have deployed in the Caribbean some nuclear submarine, and we are denouncing that. We all know that what has happened there in the Caribbean and this threat against Venezuela is not because of drugs, it's not because of migrants, it's not because of terrorists. It's because Venezuela has an immense reserve of oil, natural resources. The U.S. regime is trying to snatch this resource.
The U.S. efforts to destabilize countries like Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba continue. This includes the U.S. imposing at least 76 of its over 800 overseas bases and cooperative security locations in this region to surveil countries which refuse its imperialist policies, like Cuba and Venezuela, through its outposts in occupied Puerto Rico. The U.S. has also unilaterally enacted severe economic, social aid, and other sanctions on Venezuela as a means to force their compliance with U.S. policies.
The current doctrine prioritizes unarmed, that's peaceful, constitutional, and legal struggle. The government has been formed and has heard the cries and the aspiration of the people. The people have formed themselves in units, and then the governments display this willingness of the people. This is the power of the people now.
We, as mothers against the war, know what wars do to people, about what happened to the occupied nations like Iraq, Afghanistan, and Vietnam, and now they want to do it in Venezuela. We in Puerto Rico are very much opposing this invasion, and we will do everything in our power to prevent it.
The courage of the Venezuelan people is an example of a struggle for a more just and equitable world. Its resources and rights belong to everyone, not only to a privileged few.
This is really important for us, for movement, social movement to start speaking up about what's happening there in Venezuela, in the Caribbean, and to counteract, to denounce the U.S. aggressions of Venezuela, and not only on Venezuela, but on the Caribbean as well.
The critical importance of respecting Venezuelan sovereignty and opposing the U.S. military and economic aggression. These voices call for solidarity, peace, and collective resistance as the path forward to defend sovereignty and the dignity of all peoples in the region under imperialist pressures. La lucha sigue, and as we say in the Philippines, padayon.
Nice. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you everyone that participated in the media forum and was there, showed the support for Venezuela. The whole media forum, I think it's also in our YouTube channel, so we can link it and folks can watch it. It's both in Spanish and English. Yeah, folks can go to our YouTube page, Resist US-Led War Movement, to watch it if they want to. I think something that I didn't mention, but that will be a great segue for our next section, is that really also part of this aggression and build up to war that the US has been doing, it's also using its military bases in occupied Puerto Rico to bring in troops, so deploying over 10,000 troops to Puerto Rico and using its military bases for surveillance, for staging troops, for staging ships, for staging airplanes and bombers. So really making use of its military outposts in Puerto Rico to prepare for this intervention. We'll be able to hear a little bit from Sonia with Madres contra la Guerra on how the people in Puerto Rico have also been showing solidarity and protesting that use of these bases towards the intervention in Venezuela. Before passing it to Sonia, I just really wanted to mention that Resist and other allied organizations just finished 2 weeks of action against military bases, and I think the situation here really highlights the importance of why we need to oppose U.S. military bases everywhere that they are, both in the U.S. soil and then also, of course, its overseas military bases that, like I said, are primarily used to prepare and when a war starts, really wage and support in wars of aggression that the US does in a variety of countries. But even before those wars are being waged and those military bases are used to wage these wars, those military bases already affect the people and their land immensely, right? We can see from how much violence against women there are in both inside the military bases and around the military bases to quote unquote serve US personnel. We can see by how much land is destroyed both in the process of building those bases and also maintaining the bases, how much pollution and how much it impacts both the people's sacred lands and also their ways of life, affecting the lands that people used to farm and the waters that they used to fish. So really seeing how these military bases are on itself from the get-go a part of a violation of people's and nation sovereignty by the US and US militarization. So I'll show another video. I think this is the last one that we have for today, but it's good. We've been producing a lot of prop and also a call for folks if they want to use these videos to show the breadth of the movement and educate folks around the issues. So I'll show this video and then I'll pass it to Sonia to talk a little bit about how people in Puerto Rico have been resisting.
Bonifacio, I'm the chairperson of Guahan USA and also the Guahan International Officer.
From Women for Peace Finland, but I'm also active in Global Women for Peace, United Against NATO.
I'm Donna Denia with the International Women's Alliance.
I'm Nina from Bayern USA.
Bonjour, je suis Sylvain Dupont, coordonnatrice du mouvement War Profiteers ici au Sénégal.
Je m'appelle Marie Botti et je suis vice-présidente de l'Alliance internationale des femmes.
Bonsoir, je m'appelle Zanguel Kress. Je suis membre de World Beyond War, chapitre du Cameroun. Je suis camerounaise.
Hi, I'm Kim Montgomery, coordinator of Montreal for World Beyond War in Canada.
I'm Susanne Urban from the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom.
We're resisting U.S. military bases.
We're here outside the Philippine consulate in San Francisco demanding U.S. bases out of the Philippines, out of Asia Pacific, out of everywhere.
I strongly oppose the U.S. military bases in Norway and in our city of Bergen.
I strongly oppose all U.S. military bases, wherever they are in the world.
Here resisting U.S. military bases.
Cela n'a rien à voir avec la paix dans le monde. C'est pour assurer la subjugation des pays, avoir accès à leurs ressources et influencer les politiques intérieures.
Okay, I'm gonna cut the video short just so that we have time to go through everything that we need to. But also this video has been shared both on Resist's Instagram and I think it's on the International League of People Struggles YouTube channel. So folks can end the video and watch the rest and those there. But I think it really does a good job at showing how many people all over the world oppose spaces and just how many people were able to also participate in the week of action and really take action against those military bases. And to talk a little bit about, to talk a little bit about the bases and how folks have been resisting in Puerto Rico, I'll pass it to Sonia from Madres contra la Guerra. And I'll let you take the stage.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. From Puerto Rico, let me tell you, we are facing a very troublesome time here with the militarization of the island. Let me clarify that we have always been militarized since U.S. took over in 98, but it had been subtle. They supposedly left, but they didn't. See, they kept openly acknowledging it about 3 bases, but they say that they only have 1 base active, which is Guahan, but that is not true. They also have the Muñiz airfield base, and they are using Roosevelt Roads, which is the biggest naval ship military base in Puerto Rico, as well as in Ramey, in Aguadilla, and in the southern portion of the island, we have Camp Santiago, which is where they are taking the Marines. Let me tell you something. In order for the U.S. to build those military bases in the 1920s, 40s, they expropriated people. They took people out of their land. That is called ethnic cleansing. And they also contaminated our land. What Madres contra la Guerra is doing, and we've been doing it for many years now, is we are having big rallies in front of the U.S. bases. For instance, in the last 6 weeks, we have had 5 big rallies in front of the U.S. bases in Puerto Rico throughout the whole island. And the media here has been very cooperative. They present the information and everything. Now, we're talking that they're using, for instance, the V-22 Osprey, which is a plane that had been decommissioned, had been taken away because it causes, it gets fire and it crashes, and it has killed at least 62 people. In Okinawa, it happened, and they had big rallies about it. So this past Sunday, we had a big rally in the southern portion of Puerto Rico in Fort Allen. And now this coming Sunday, we're having one big rally in front of the Muniz Air Force Base. Now, let me tell you what I did. I decided, the collective, when I speak I mean the whole collective, Madres contra la Guerra. We decided to delve into which type of ecocide they're causing here. And guess what? We went to public records. We went in the internet, and with the help of some ambientalistas, which is the people that are specialized in finding these things for our nature, environmentalists, that's the word in English. We found what type of toxic substance are in each base. So what I wrote a big letter describing all the contamination in every single base and asking, because of the Freedom of Information Act, that they have to give us in 20 days time the results of what they acknowledging what's going on, what mitigation they're doing, what kind of cleanup. Of course, we know they're not cleaning anything. And we're also requesting that they have open forums so that the community around the bases learn that, for instance, Lake Torrecilla, next to the base in Muniz Airfield, is contaminated with a lot of things like PFSA and forever chemicals, hydrocarburos. I don't know how to say it in English. And so what we're doing is exposing them constantly. And also, we are in solidarity with the people of Venezuela, Colombia, and Trinidad, because they also killed several fishermen from Trinidad in one of those boats. So I think it is very important to maintain the consciousness. See, because it is easy to get into Netflix and the TV and forget about everything. But we are becoming the conscience of the people. And you know what helped us also a lot is that we have a local hero, Zuleika Morales Rivera. She went to the Flotilla Sumud in Palestine. So I called all the media people here, radio, TV stations, press, and they're interviewing her. And we were able to break the Palestine media silence that had been occurring. And also, we are having weekly rallies in front of the U.S. consulate. No, not the U.S. consulate, the Zionist Israeli consulate. And this coming Tuesday will be the number 105. So people, we have to go to the streets. We have to get away from our comfort zones. And I congratulate you. Resist U.S.-led wars. It's very important. And what you're doing is awesome. I'm very proud to say I'm part of you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonia. It's so good to hear how the people have been showing support, going to the streets to oppose this U.S. intervention in Venezuela, but really a intervention in all of Latin America and the Caribbean. And it's just so great to hear. And we'll also take inspiration, like people are saying in the chat, from your actions. And I think, the call for us to really get out of our comfort zones, to go to the streets, to do things that we haven't done before so that we can reach more people and bring more people into the movement to resist US-led war and build just peace. It's ever more important. So thank you so much. It was great to hear. And then my last thing I'll mention before I pass is that probably some people here heard about this, but we're in the process of releasing our new primer on US military bases to really educate people on their history. So why were they created? How did the US expand this network of military bases, their impact on people, and then also the fight back against US military bases? Because the people, ever since the inception of US military bases, have been fighting them and have won great victories, both historically and also in the present, right? So really trying to summarize all of these resources into one primer, that it's going to be one of those things that we publish, and it's more kind of a long-term propaganda piece that folks can use, download, and it looks really good. We're able to has some folks, partners, design the cover, which looks really nice. The people fighting the US Eagle and troops, but just wanted to let people know that this is coming out. And it was also part of the production of this, consulting with folks that have been fighting and are fighting US military bases to showcase studies of how people, are resisting them, so that people also all over the movement can learn from it and take inspiration from it. So we're almost finishing it. It's probably going to come out this month, so in the next 7 days. And excited, we'll share through the network channels as it comes out as well. And that's it for Solidarity with Venezuela and the fight against military bases. Well, I have another portion. Forgot about this one, but also a very important portion. We talked a lot about the different campaigns that folks have been taking up under the anti-militarism agenda and the calls under the anti-militarism agenda. And one of the calls on the anti-militarism agenda that we haven't talked about yet is the Cut Ties with War Profiteers, right? So it's one of the Resist's oldest campaigns in which a lot of the members have taken up, really trying to expose and oppose those folks that are actually profiting from war and enabling the war to happen. It's been almost 3 years now that this campaign has been happening with decentralized actions, folks targeting war profiteering in the different ways that they manifest in their own communities. So the ties of weapons manufacturers and their universities and how the university funnels students into working into these war profiteers. Some folks are targeting mining companies that are mining the resources that are needed to build these weapons and actually displacing people in the process. And those weapons are then used again when they are done to attack the people to get their resources that they are using. So really seeing folks targeting weapons companies and war companies throughout all of the supply chain. And I think something that it's been really clear to us is that I think in this 3 years, we started seeing as just weapons companies kind of narrowly, but the campaigns on the ground have really taken up way more than just weapons companies. They have, like I said, targeted mining companies, targeting banking companies like BlackRock. So all these different types of companies that are related and enabling war and exposing those companies for what they are. Really companies that perpetrate death and that profit from destruction. So something that we're doing right now is trying to redo and think more about how folks have been targeting these different kinds of companies and trying to expand a little bit the campaign beyond just weapons companies. So we're going to have a second and updated campaign paper that is going to talk a little bit more about these different ways in which companies profit from war and how people are targeting them. So one thing new about the Cut Ties with War Profiteers is that we are activating the Research and Education Committee of Resist to really dig in a little bit more on, what are the points in the supply chain that are most vulnerable so that we can take all of these different isolated actions right now and more decentralized actions and bring them together. So the Research and Education Committee is gonna really ramp up the research on these weapons companies and the war machine, trying to find these different places in which the war machine is most vulnerable and the different deals, etc. And then something else that we just did was folks that targeted weapon shows in which all these different weapons companies come together and statesmen and other people that buy weapons come together to really show the most up-to-date missile systems, the most up-to-date weapon systems, so that they can sell it to these people so that they can wage wars. And Resist has a lot of members and partners that have actually targeted these weapons shows, and a lot of success actually. So all of these groups that targeted these weapon shows came together to have a talk, share different strategies that have been used and the results of those strategies, so that people could learn from actual experience on the ground of trying to shut down these weapon shows and strike a dent to the war machine. So we had Vito from the Netherlands, had Resist US-led War Seattle from the US, we had Galag from France, IOPS Australia was there, folks from Guam were also able to attend, and also Gegar from Malaysia. So really bringing together people targeting these weapon shows from all over the world with different tactics to talk and share how, people have really been effective at shutting them down. And it was really cool to see how the different strategies resulted in different results and the successes also of these tactics. So people were able to actually take down Israeli companies from the weapon shows in the Netherlands and Rotterdam, and the organizers actually cited security concerns over the protests, and that's why they uninvited the Israeli companies. But of course, the fight doesn't end there. All these other weapons companies are still selling weapons to Israel and a number of different states and contributing to a lot of different wars of aggression. Folks will continue to do that and protest the weapon shows in Rotterdam. And it's actually happened on November 20th this year, which is coming up. And a next step from this coming together of all of these different organizations, it's actually sharing a little bit of these lessons of the campaigns on the ground, trying to shut down these weapon shows and the different tactics and how they resulted in, one, bringing more people in and growing the movement, but also how broad calls and that allowed for a number of different tactics were the most effective in shutting it down and bringing more people in to the movement. So people will come together again, but this time for the public, which means that anyone here can come and participate and listen into on November 15th. We still don't have a time. We'll publicize it when we define it, but to hear about the lessons and get folks together to share the different propaganda that people made, the tactics from doing a people's court and actually filing a lawsuit against the venue in which these arms shows were being held, to direct action and blocking the roads to these weapons fairs, and then, of course, mass mobilizations. So really a chance to learn from the fights on the ground and come together again as well to show support for these different fights. So those are the two things I think very exciting that we are in the process of relaunching this campaign with a version 2, trying to bring the decentralized fights more together so that we can target with even more strength and people. So the research and education, if you want to be in the committee and help with that research, would be you're welcome. You can message the chat, or you can message any of the secretariat, or email us. Either of those work. And then on November 15th, not a set time yet, but there's going to be a webinar with all of these different organizations all over the world that have been waging the fight against weapons, expos, sharing their lessons and learning from each other so that people can also take the lessons and apply to their own local context. Yeah, that's it. A lot happening for the Cut Ties with War Profiteers and a lot of exciting things. So excited to see what comes out of it and what we further build together.
To start to get towards the end of our meeting, we're going to talk about some new resources that we have for Resist US-led War. If you have been Following us for a while, you've been with Resist, you've heard mention of a curriculum, our first educational curriculum that has been in the works. This is a public political education that is based on 4 main topics. General, what is war and militarism? What does that mean when we talk about US-led war? And then going a bit deeper, what is imperialism? How will imperialism always lead to war until it's ended? What is the relationship between war and fascism? And the fourth and final one, what is it that we really mean when we're talking about the fight for just and lasting peace? And how can we better understand what that fight looks like together across the world? So this is a 4-course curriculum that Resist US-Led War is developing. Well, we're excited to announce that the first course, after many months of working on it, What is US-Led War and Militarism, is complete. Big shout out, show your emoji or Zoom chat. Congratulations to the Research and Education Committee and the many other people who have worked to make this curriculum, this first course, a success. Stay tuned because we're soon going to announce our first public run-through, our first run-through with members for the course. This is meant to be a general education for anyone with no background knowledge needed, and really ground it to try to build a shared analysis of the fight against US-led war, and also grounding it into the concrete conditions of people who are most impacted by war and militarism. It's also meant to show that when we're talking about militarism and its impacts, we're talking about more than just war as we're generally traditionally taught to understand it. War is so many different things, and there's war on so many different fronts against so many aspects of people's livelihood. But because of that, there are so many different ways to fight back. And I think the run through of all of the work that people are doing throughout the anti-militarism agenda campaigns that we just heard from is evidence of that. So stay tuned soon in order to go through our first run through of what is US-led war and militarism. And we'll also be rolling out our teaching materials for it. This idea is this is a curriculum that our members themselves can actually teach. We have a full lesson plan and facilitator's guide that teaches you how to teach this. It is something that we're going to be trying to give you the tools to how to teach more. It'll be up on our website soon, but if you're interested to learn more, again, stay tuned. And if you want to take part in the future work of making either other materials, infographics, videos, other teaching things that we'll be using for this specific course, or if you're interested in helping us write our other courses on imperialism, which has been in the works for a while now too, or our future ones on fascism and the fight for just and lasting peace, get in touch with us, join the Research and Education Committee. Let's educate ourselves so we can fight better together, actually achieve just and lasting peace. That's it for the curriculum, and I'll now pass it off to talk about our briefers that we'll start putting out more. Carly.
Yeah, thanks, Cody. Final 2 resources. One of them is a new tool that we wanted to release, and I'll actually replace the screen share, is a tool on rising resistance against the war machine and current US war moves. So this is a project that we're trying out, so please let us know if it's helpful and if you have feedback or if you'd like to contribute. But it's essentially an analysis and newsletter that can track the 3 fronts of war and regional flashpoints of conflict that are happening and give a synthesized presentation of the facts and then a little bit of analysis. So this one covers moves in West Asia, where the US is backing the genocide and preparing for wider aggression. This was released at the point where the peace plan had just been announced, the quote-unquote peace plan. It's really still a genocide plan because it's under Trump and US imperialism, but it also shows how the people are fighting back. So how did the resistance respond to the proposal? What was the global Samud flotilla doing? And on other fronts, similarly, in Europe, it shows how troop staging was starting to happen. The movement of oil tankers in this theater of war, as they say. And then, of course, how Europe is being pushed to raise their military spending on their GDP to 5%. But also the massive protests of the people for Palestine against bases and how people are organizing. And then finally, on the Asia Pacific front and Southeast Asia, showing the staging for war against China and the DPRK. So some points here are that Trump is planning to attend the ASEAN summit, or maybe has been there this week. I'm not sure. We have to check and update this. And major advanced weapon systems being placed in South Korea, as well as in Kashmir. The major massacres being committed against the people there as the conflict between Pakistan and India was picking up. And of course, everyone saw the millions of people taking the streets in the Philippines, in Indonesia, and Nepal, all with their own local political context with popular protests against corruption that really had youth leading the way, fighting against, in some cases, military forces, fighting against the US representations in their countries, or just the theft of their resources, like the flood control projects in the Philippines. And these were met with massive state violence in different contexts. In Africa, we noted how the different conflicts in Libya, Sudan, and the Democratic Republic of Congo and Syria are really playing out these devastating proxy wars for control over resources and influence with different backers like Egypt, the UAE, Russia, Turkey, or US wielding its influence through third parties. But of course, the context of the assertion of sovereignty in part of Africa with the Sahel states really forming an independent bloc against French colonial control. And we already talked today about Venezuela and the staging in Puerto Rico. And then, of course, on the home front, if you're in the US or however you say that, inside the US domestically, there's the situation of Trump deploying troops and National Guard to cities, the declaration of many activists and leftists as terrorists as part of this massive campaign of repression against migrants, and then the US putting out its own propaganda through many types of platforms, but also a big meeting of military heads at Quantico, where they're really platforming this idea that war and domination is how we build peace, when we know that it's the people rising up in self-determination that leads to peace. So this is the type of briefing that we'd like to be producing regularly to cover the different moves. And everyone is fighting so hard on their fronts. We hope that this can be a resource to zoom out and see some of the bigger picture and analysis to link our struggles together more firmly and show how no matter where it is that we're fighting, it really is a united movement for a just and lasting peace. So send us your feedback. We'd love to know if this is useful or if you think it should change. So give us some feedback. It's on our website as well under resources. There's a new tab for briefings. And finally, on the organizational front, we have a new member packet. So if any of you have joined Resist before October, you maybe have seen this in our chat. And if you've joined since October, you've definitely gotten a copy of it. But this is a resource for all of the members of the network. And if you'd like a copy, we'll send it to you directly. It gives context of what it means to join this network, how we can work together. And it includes some of the videos you've seen. It includes our contact information, a style guide for those of you who like doing graphics so we can look united, and then a summary of our campaigns, also some resources like a brochure about joining Resist. Yeah, some resources about joining Resist, a one-pager, flyers, and you can just click on these links to see these type of materials and talk to other people in your community about what Resist is and how to get involved. And if you want to make a flyer about joining Resist, there's a sample here. You could create a copy and fill in your own information about the local issue that you're fighting on. You can also see links to our main campaigns and also an explanation of our structure as Resist and the communication channels we have, as well as our committees. So there's a network and membership committee. We're recruiting. We need more help to keep up with this growing network. There's now almost 70 organizations who are part of Resist US-Led War, and you can help us in this committee. Or like folks said, we're partnering with this research and education committee on the War Profiteers campaign. So these are places folks can join forces. And I'll just mention once more while we have you here that there is two different platforms now where all the members can talk to each other. So if you want to join the network, you can talk to people on the Signal group or on WhatsApp. So we know everyone uses different platforms, and those are available. And anytime you need to contact the Secretariat, you can message us so we can initiate projects together and really make this movement and this coordination more lively. And we hope this is a helpful tool to all of us here to build our coordination and our organizations.
It's really, again, inspiring to see how many people are taking up the call to resist US-led war and build a just peace in their different contexts, in their different countries, their different nations, from fighting actual threats of direct intervention in the US, from the US, to fighting military bases, to fighting the militarization of their communities inside the US, can really see how the people are taking every opportunity to resist US-led war. And I thought there was some more links in the slide, but I think, again, just reiterating the call to talk to folks, talk to different organizations about resist. If you're a member, it's really important that we broaden the fight, that we bring more people into the movement. Yeah, I think we'll see each other very soon. Like we mentioned today, there's going to be the End Colonial Control Independence Now campaign launch on November 8th and 9th. And then we'll also have the Weapons Shows Lessons webinar on November 15th. So there's a lot of opportunity to keep learning from each other, keep hyping each other up, keep struggling together to, end US-led war. And I think something else that we wanted to ask and request is that if folks have any funds that they're willing to donate, our website, I think, has a link there and a page to donate. There's a lot of things coming up, as folks saw, that would be great to have funds to go to grow the network. And we also have merch, the shirts and the beanies. Oh, it's getting cold in some areas of the world these days. And some are getting hot. So if it's buy the shirt, if it's cold, you can buy the beanie. And we are indeed mailing them. So anywhere in the world, if you want it and are willing to donate, would be great. And I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for coming. And we hope to see everyone very soon in all the different opportunities that we were able to talk about today. And we'll see each other again in 2 months for a meeting. Thank you, everyone.